Yo, and welcome to the Best Ever Podcast. It's your boy, Mr. Trusav. Whew, I almost gave you guys 100 bars and running. I forgot I used to be able to rap. I was going to give you guys a couple bars, but I didn't have many bars for you today. Maybe next time. But again, welcome to the Best Ever Podcast. I am your boy, Mr. Trusav. And finally, we have some intro music. Things are coming together here at the Best Ever Podcast. We've got a logo with t-shirts. We've got intro music. Now we need some guests and we'll be an actual show. Ain't this something? Get that good stretch. As you can tell, I'm full of energy today here on the Best Ever Podcast. Another exciting day in Okanda here at the Hotel Savage. It's just me and the girls hanging out on a lovely Monday, getting ready for this work week. I know. I didn't forget about you guys. I promise. I've been thinking about it all week. The Savage Way. So, as promised, nothing from last week. No work stories. Nothing funny. We're just going to jump right into it. So, without further ado, here it is. Your top 10 ways of how to be a savage. Well, I kind of messed up the order already because I gave you one last week. So I guess we'll go a little bit out of order. But that's all right? All right. So, number 9 on the list, which we'll be moving to number 1 for the purposes of this story, we said was confidence. If you want to be a savage, you have to be confident. Like what you said, I don't know how to do that. You're supposed to teach us how to do it. I got you. Don't worry about it. So, when being confident in yourself and in certain situations, the number one thing is you have to stop making comparisons to other people. If you want to be confident in yourself, you can't say, oh, well, Bill Gates has this, or my cousin has this, or this other person that I saw on social media has this. You got to stop that. Absolutely, positively, you got to stop that. The problem with comparing yourself to other people is you don't know what they had to go through to get what they have. So, yeah, you're like, oh, I want to be like such and such. Well, I can give you a better example of that. There was a lady at my job years ago when I had first started working, and she had this really nice car. It was a Mercedes with rims on it. The outside was, I want to say the outside was black. The interior was like a white leather, but it didn't look like white. It was like an ivory colored, something two-tone. I don't know. I'm not really into cars, but it was nice. And every day I would tell the lady who drove it, she was an older lady. She's maybe late 40s, early 50s. I was 20, so that was old to me. And every time I would say, like, man, that's a really nice car. That's a really nice car. I wish I had a car like that. And one day, after maybe 5 or 6 months of me telling her how great this car was and how nice it was, I finally went up to her and I was like, hey, that's a really nice car. Like, what made you buy that or do that to that car? And she said, it's not my car. It's my son's car. I was like, oh, wow, your son has a really nice car. Like, why did he give it to you? Like, what's the story behind it? She was like, well, I only have this car because my son got murdered. Yeah, exactly. Radio silence. I said, I'm sorry, what happened? She said, yeah, this isn't my car. This is my son's car. My son was murdered. And because I'm his mother, this was given to me. So I have to drive this car because I didn't have a car. And in that moment, I was like, ooh. And that taught me that something that you want, you never know what it takes to get the things that people have. So while you may desire something that someone else has, you don't know what they went through to get it. And you may not want to go through that to get it yourself. So be very wary of desiring other people's possessions. Also part of being more confident, this was a big one for me. I think I talked about this a little while ago, was learning to accept compliments and criticism. I can take criticism. I understand, because criticism is a form of getting better, self-improvement. You have to know what you're bad at to know what you're good at. My problem is I can't take a compliment to save my life. I don't know why. It's just whenever someone gets to talking about how good I do something or how great I am in something, I'm just kind of waiting for the next part. Like, okay, well, what else? Or I think it's from being in business. I know that whenever people flatter you or give you a lot of praise, there's usually something coming after that. Now, can I borrow $10? Can you give me a ride? Because you're such an amazing person. But especially because once you know what you're good at and things that you're having difficulty with, you gain confidence and such, and it'll make it that much easier to do anything else. Conversely, admiring your strengths. When you know what you're good at, you kind of shy away from the bad things. But not so much. I mean, we all know there's things that we're good at and things we're bad at. If you're bad at something, don't completely shy away from it and just not do it. Just kind of take baby steps to get into perfecting it. I mean, we're always going to have strengths and weaknesses, but as long as you can acknowledge what your weaknesses are and you can work on them, you'll be fine. Tracking your accomplishments, another amazing way to get some confidence up, especially when you're starting from zero. If you can measure your progress and you see success, I talk about it all the time. Plan your work your plan. When you can see your improvements, that's how you start to build confidence in your skills and in yourself. Oh, most importantly, tell yourself good things daily. Again, another tough one. I don't not tell myself positive things, but I forget. I just kind of like, all right, this is what we got to do. But it's almost like a daily reminder, like, hey, you know what? You did great on that episode yesterday. You know, you're doing really good doing this. Kind of just friendly, helpful reminders to get yourself together. Because, I mean, you already know you're the shit because you're a savage, but you kind of have to remind yourself every day. Really important thing. All right. That was a little bit out of order, but don't worry. Everything else is in order. I got it situated. All right. So, number one, most important thing of being a savage. First thing we do in the meeting when you show up, the first thing we have to know, can you defend yourself? See, that was a very key word. I said defend yourself. I didn't say can you fight. Fighting is important in life in general, but when I say defend yourself, fighting is part of it, like actually throwing your fist, like that's a part of it. But not every altercation is a physical altercation. There's times in the corporate world where you're going to want to punch somebody. You are going to literally want to assault somebody, but you can't. That's not the way it works. Now, we've all been kids. We've all played on the playground. We've all had to deal with bullies and stuff like that. Well, yeah, I did too. But I'm being of such a large stature, physical violence isn't something that I've really had to deal with. So for me, I could say, oh, well, yeah, just learn how to fight and that's it. But not everyone is physically imposing like I am, especially some of our women savages. Physical violence doesn't always work. So when I say defend yourself, you have to know how to talk yourself out of certain situations if physical violence isn't going to work. So, for example, years ago when I used to drink, we were at a bar in Elk Grove, and there was 3 or 4 gentlemen there that were having a really good time, enjoying themselves a little too much. And they were getting a bit rowdy, and words got exchanged with another group. And eventually, the famous words of, "Well, meet me outside," were uttered. I don't know these 3 or 4 guys who were involved in the situation. I wouldn't know them from Joe Schmo. So I go outside to see what the commotion is, and I quickly realize that these 4 gentlemen have talked themselves into an ass whooping. The people who they were arguing with came with about 15 other people. So now the odds are 4 against 15. I'm not really one to watch people get assaulted like that, well, anymore. So I had to think quick. There was no way that I could physically stop these 15 people from jumping on these 4 dudes. So what I did was I decided to, because you know how most fights start. One group is on one side, the group is on the other. Words are exchanged. There's a little bit of space in the middle. So I walk in between both groups, and I hit the, what is it? I start doing the robot. Boom, boom, boom. And I can't dance to save my life. So I hit the robot, and then after I hit the robot, I do a little fake, little fake break move dance, and then bam, hit him with the finish. And everyone starts laughing because they're like, what is this dude doing? What is going on? And in the commotion of me doing all that, I hop up, I walk up to the guys that were about to get assaulted, and I'm like, hey, let's get out of here right now. Like, we got to shake the spot. So they walk off with me because the other group is still distracted. Like, they don't understand what just happened. Everyone's laughing. So me and the 4 guys, we're walking away. I'm like, hey, where did you guys park at? They're like, oh, we parked across the street. I'm like, okay, let's get out of here. One dude didn't have a shirt on because you know how that goes. You got to take your shirt off, showing you're ready to fight. So bam, I think I had a button up with another shirt on under. So I gave dude the button up. Was like, yeah, whoop. Let's get out of here. So they get to their car. They dap me up like, all right, man, like, let me get your number. I'm going to hit you. I'm like, all right, yeah, sure, whatever. So I come back to the bar and everyone loses it. They're just like, why did you do that? Like, what was going on? And I was like, I don't know, man. The spirit of the groove just came over me. And so we enjoy the rest of the day, close the bar down, we do our thing. The next morning, through my hungover state, I get a phone call. And wouldn't you know it, it's the guys from the night before. And they're just like, oh, thank you, man. Like, we don't know what would have happened if you wouldn't have did that. And this and this and this. I'm saying, like, good looking. We're going to have a party tonight if you want to come through. Bring your partners. Just not those ones from the bar. And I was like, for sure, man. And in that moment, now I made a whole new group of friends off of something that wasn't even my business. I could have just been like, hey, that's not my problem. Y'all are about to fight. Well, you're just going to take this ass whooping today. But the better part of valor is discretion. And sometimes you have to get involved in situations that aren't your business. I don't know why I did. I just didn't want to see them get assaulted like that. There was no need. There's no need for a simple disagreement to turn into someone. Because, I mean, they were going to beat their ass. Like, just, I mean, it was already 4-on-1. I mean, it's 16 to 4. Like, that wasn't going to be good for anybody. Now, with that discretion being the better part of valor, sometimes you're going to have to put your hands on people. Like, that's just the way. You can't talk your way out of every situation. And I'm not saying that you have to be Roy Jones or Sugar Ray Leonard with your hands, but you have to be able to at least be willing to defend yourself. I used to tell my friends all the time, like, look, don't think that because I'm with you that means that you could just run your mouth and I'm going to show up and I'm going to fight for you. Like, that's not what's going to happen. What I expect from you is, if you're going to go out, first of all, if you're with me, I don't expect you to be fighting for any reason. We should be able to go out in public and have a good time. But if the situation does arise and you have to protect yourself, I expect you to. I mean, if you get in there and you throw a couple punches and you lose the fight, I can respect that. But if you don't even put your hands up and like you just run, I can't respect that. And we can't be friends. Like, there's no shame in getting beat up. There's no shame in losing a fight. If you try to protect yourself and you lose, that's fine. I think there's too much emphasis on, well, we all know that's why people get shot nowadays. Because no one wants the embarrassment of saying that they lost a fight. I mean, as long as you're willing to fight, you're good with me. I don't particularly care. That's the distinction in being a savage. we don't want you to fight, but if there's no other recourse of action, then I mean, you got to put your hands up, baby. It's all right. If you lose, we'll only make fun of you for a little bit. It's cool. Fuck, I done lost a couple. Did I tell that? Yeah, I think I told that story. Yeah, that was a good one. That's one of my favorite ones. So, rule number one: you gotta defend yourself, whether it be verbally or physically. Well, I guess how would you defend yourself verbally? I know. So, for those of us who work in a office situation or in a managerial situation, like I have to, people like to talk tough through email, on the phone, stuff like that. So that's also part of kind of defending yourself. Is there's nothing wrong with giving people a good tongue lashing. my man Dagwood is the king of this. I've seen Dagwood talk about people so bad that they wanted to fight. And not even swearing at people, not anything like that, but just choice of words. When we went to consume this together, when we went to City College together, I remember the police officers on campus wanted to fight him. Like, they literally were willing to lose their job because he just destroyed them verbally. Never swore, never raised his voice. If I can remember, I believe the exact phrase was he told the officer said he needed his ID to go somewhere. He didn't. He called him an incompetent imbecile. And the cop got mad because he didn't know what an imbecile was. And he thought it was a swear word. And you could just see him getting madder and madder. And the madder he got, the more Dagwood would just call him an imbecile. Ah, you twit. You know nothing, prat. Oh my goodness. So that Dagwood, that is the number one requirement. You got to be able to defend yourself. All right, number two, which also ties into number one. You've got to be willing. You've got to be able to use your brain. Now, I almost said you have to be smart, but we know that smart really isn't. Being smart isn't an indication of intelligence. If you judge a fish's intelligence by its ability to climb a tree, then you'll think that the fish is stupid. So that's a very important one, because a lot of times people think of themselves as, oh, well, I'm not that smart. I don't have a degree in anything. I didn't get a high school diploma. I have a GED. Or even someone who I dropped out in 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And I used to tell everyone, there's a difference between being stupid and ignorant. Very big difference. Being ignorant to something means you just don't know. So most children are ignorant to certain things. If I tell a child 2 + 2 is 4, they're going to say, what? Wow, that's so amazing. Because they were ignorant. They had no idea. But now if I tell you 2 + 2 is 4, and then you continue to say 2 + 2 is 5, you're stupid. Because I've already showed you how to do it. And now that's just you not retaining information. So there's different kinds of intelligence, commonly known as book smart, street smart. Either one is okay. A combination of both would be better, but either way, if you've got a degree, but you don't know where the boosters are at, or who's selling their food stamps for 50 cents on the dollar, that's okay. And conversely, if you know who's got the plug on iPads, but you don't know Pythagorean's theorem, like, that's absolutely fine. The important part is that you at least understand that there's a difference, and you can accept that even if you don't have a particular brand of knowledge, whether it be book or street, that you are still trying to learn and make yourself... Here, I'm saying this wrong. For example... Here's an example of what I'm saying. My grandfather on my mother's side lived to be about 80. And, as a child, you don't pick up on certain things. I don't know. But he ran his own business. He was like Sanford and Son. He was a junk man. Had the big pickup truck. Him and two other guys. They go pick up different scrap metal and stuff, take it back to the yard, make some money, yada, yada, yada. So one day, I was in high school, and he was really sick at this point. He was in-home care, and we would come to visit every weekend, like without missing a beat. Every weekend we were in Vallejo. And one day, he had to sign some paperwork. The nurse had gave me some papers for him to sign. And I'm like, okay, fine. I take him to the room. I give them to him to sign. And where the signature goes, he makes an X. And I was like, what was that? Like, what, why didn't he sign his name? And my mom says, oh, well, he's illiterate. And I was like, wait, what? Wait a minute. Wait. What do you mean illiterate? Like, my man is like 80 years old. And she was like, yeah, he never really learned how to read and write. I was like, well, no, because I've watched him drive. I've watched him run the business. I've even watched him change the channel to see what's on TV. He's taken us to restaurants. We've gone to movies. Like, what do you mean? And she was like, everything that you just described. I was like, isn't that something that you can learn through repetition? And I was shocked for a moment because I didn't really think about it. I was like, as long as you can count, do you really need to read the words on a stop sign to know it means stop? Do you really need to know the call signals of a channel to watch it? Something like, do I have to know how to read to know that ESPN is on channel 25? Do I really need to know that HBO is on? I mean, as long as you can flip to the channel. And that really boggled my mind when I thought about it. Because it's like, as long as you know the ABCs and you can count, anything else you can really kind of get by. And it blew my mind because it was like, you're running a business and you're basically working illiterate. So I said all that to say to make the final comparison that you don't have to have a master's degree or a high school diploma, for that fact, to be intelligent. You can make it happen. It's just you have to decide that you're going to do something. So it doesn't matter what anyone says about your level of education or your perceived level of education. You just got to use your brain, man. At least if you want to be a savage. If you don't want to use your brain, you can go somewhere else. Number 3, how to be a savage, aka the savage way. You have to like humble pie. Or in other words, you have to be humble. You're not better than or less than anybody. You're just you. So, just like we were talking about confidence earlier. Like, that's great. Hopefully one day you could be like me, Tru Sav extraordinaire, and you can tell people I'm the shit and you know it. Well, part of being humble is having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's importance. Jesus, one owns importance. This is important because a lot of times, like we talked about confidence a million times. And part of it is when you start to think that you're better than people or you start acting as if you are, that's when people don't like you. You could be the Michael Jordan talent. You could be the Bill Gates of your chosen field. If you start to think that you're better than people and you start talking in a condescending manner to people, they're not going to like you whatsoever. And this is important to being a savage because that's kind of how we move and groove. Is no one's better than anybody. We're all just here hanging out. That's why we accept everybody into the group. Because if you're not humble and you think that you're better than people, that's when that arrogance starts to set in. And when you're arrogant, that's when you stop paying attention to details and small things. In sports, we used to call it reading your press clippings. So what that means is usually when we were playing. I mean, we were good. Like we were beating teams by 40, 50 points. So in the newspaper, they like to be like, "Oh, this team is so great. Oh, they're so amazing. No one can stop them." And so what happens, especially in sports, is you start to believe it. You start to think that's right. No one can beat us. No one can do anything. We don't need to practice as hard. We don't need to pay attention to the details of things. And this is true in real. And then usually that's when they lose, i.e. the 49ers. But we're not going to talk about that. And I find this true in regular life. When you do start to rack up accomplishments, when you start to rack up accolades, even when you're keeping track of your accomplishments yourself, you almost start to believe that, you know what, maybe I am this good. Like maybe I am the best at this. And that's when vanity comes in and usually something bad happens. So you've got to keep both your feet on the ground. You can't get too high on the proverbial horse. Furthermore, I would say talking down to people or about people, that's always a bad look. Because I know if you have something bad to say about someone else in private, I'm sure you have something bad to say about me in private. So that's always an indicator. Keep your good deeds to yourself. People love that. That's one that I kind of struggle with, more so because I don't really talk about the community service and stuff, things that I do. So when I do mention it to people, they're like, "Oh no, like that's so great, like you're such a great person, like you should talk." And it's like, I really don't like talking about it because I feel like if you talk about it and you talk about how nice of a person you are and how nice these things are you do, it kind of negates anything positive that you just have done. So, humble pie, get 2 slices. Number 4 on How to Be a Savage, one of my favorite. No fear. Not like the hats from the 90s. So this is kind of deep. So when I say no fear, like I'd be lying if I was saying that there are things that aren't scary. Like, okay, I'm gonna tell you guys a secret. I'm fucking scared of heights. Without a doubt. Like that is, hey, some people can't go over bridges. Some people are scared of spiders. Heights. I'm slowly getting over it. My wife, the lovely person she is, one of the things that we had said that we wanted to do as a couple last year was walk across the Golden Gate Bridge. For those of you who don't know, the Golden Gate Bridge is high as hell, boy. It's up there. And you can feel it. Like first of all, if you're walking on it and the cars are going by, it shakes. Like, like it sways in the wind. Like it's sturdy, but it moves. And oh my gosh. So we walked across it and I did my absolute best to put a brave face on. I stayed closer to the street. I didn't really want to walk by the edge where you could look over. They've put barriers, they've put barriers on the bridge so that people can't jump off. That's a whole nother conversation. But there's barriers underneath, so if you do fall, it'll catch you. Allegedly. But I didn't even want to walk close to the edge. I tried to play it off. She was like, "Let's take a picture with our backs on the thing." I was like, let's just walk across. So I made it. So those are the types of fears that I'm talking about. The types of fear that I mean is like fears of social situations. I'm scared to walk into this room because I don't know anyone. I'm scared to answer the question because I might get it wrong. I'm scared to speak up about a specific situation that's bothering me. That type of fear, like maybe anxiety-inducing situations, maybe something like that is what I mean. And I know what you're thinking. You're saying, well, isn't not fearing something and being confident the same thing? In a roundabout way, yes. For the purpose of today, when we're talking about confidence, we're talking about just your personal confidence and like you making life decisions, being confident with yourself. When I'm talking about no fear, I mean accepting specific decisions that you've made, knowing that, like we said a few weeks ago, life's a bitch and then you die. Like this is your one shot at things. And you can't waste your one shot being scared of what could happen. This person may not like me. This may not work. That's the kind of fear. I guess we could call it, no. We're just going to call it fear. Because that's what it is. You're uncertain, you're unsure, you're afraid. Like, these are all issues that we all deal with on some larger, some smaller scale. But that's the important one. If you want to be a savage, you can't care about other people's opinions. You can't care about what people have to say. You're basically the only person whose opinion that matters is you. As long as you're not doing something that negatively affects someone else, there's nothing wrong with it. And if you're afraid that someone's opinion of you or someone's not going to like you or have something negative to say about you, fuck all of that. We're savages. We don't care. So get that out your system. Don't even think about that. All right. Number 5. One of the more important ones, if you ask me, but nobody's asking. Number 5. You have to be trustworthy. If there was a top 3 out of the top 5, this has got to be one of them. Your reputation precedes you. That is something that from day one, I always believed to be true. If your reputation is that you're a piece of shit and that you're lying, stealing, cheating, whatever, that's going to follow you wherever. And conversely, if your reputation is that you're an honest, trustworthy person, that's what it is. This is so important to being savage because a lot of times I'm going to look to other savages for their opinions on situations. Here, well, let me clarify. When I say honest and trustworthy, it almost implies that there's no lying. Now, I'm going to be honest. That's a double entendre. I'm going to be honest. I lie from time to time. I'm not saying that lying is okay. Sometimes lies just get you out of conversations you don't want to be in. You know, it's. Let me try to clear this one up. This is going to be a backpedal job. Lying is okay sometimes. I know. Let me clarify. Being a liar is bad. That's unacceptable. You can't just be an out-and-out liar. You can't just make up shit and expect it to be cool. That's not what I mean. But sometimes in life, especially in long-term relationships, whether they be romantic, platonic, whatever, you gotta lie from time to time. Like, there's just certain situations that you either don't want to be involved in, you don't know how to deal with, maybe, or you just, I don't even want to deal with that right now. I lied this morning. My wife asked me, "Oh, did you take the dogs out last night?" I was like, "Oh, yeah. I took them out. Yeah, sure." I was tired. I didn't want to deal with it. Should I have done that? No. But I just didn't want to get up. She knew I was lying when I said it. So, I mean, hey, it happens. But now, when my wife asks me, "Hey, what happened with such and such situation?" And I'm like, "Okay, this is what happened. So and so and so and so. This is why I did such and such." That's understandable. So when I'm talking about honest and trustworthy, that's what I'm saying. Like, to say that you can't lie ever, I mean, that's just not realistic. As long as when further questioned, you come clean about the lie. So I guess if my wife would have asked me like a follow-up later today, and she'd be like, "Are you sure you walk the dogs? Because I saw the leash in the same spot," and I was like, "Okay, you know what? I didn't walk the dogs. I was tired. I didn't really want to do it. I forgot. That's being honest. I mean, again, there's nothing wrong with a little white lie. I mean, well, there is something wrong with the white lie, but sometimes you got to clean it up. My favorite is the "Do I look fat in this dress?" That's always the one people come back with. Well, what do you say when your wife says something like that to him? I was like, I tell her, yes. Like, what do you? Yeah, that doesn't look good on you. Like, now, and that's the difference between being honest and being an asshole. If you're being honest and someone is asking for your honest opinion about something, and you say, okay, this is how I feel, this is why, people can usually live with that. But when you're an asshole about it, do I look fat in the dress? Yeah, you fat bitch, you need to lose. Like, that's out of pocket, and nobody's really fucking with you. This is why I say that being honest / trustworthy is one of the most important, because also when people can come to you for your opinion on a subject and they know that you will keep what you discuss to yourself, that's a bond that's a very deep bond that you can create with somebody, because we all need help from time to time. We all need guidance on certain issues. Like I said, I don't pretend to be the smartest person in the room. I gotta ask people for help sometimes. And part of giving an honest answer to someone is, especially in management, that's the issue that a lot of people have, that they don't understand what it means to be honest. And I'll give you an example. My problem with being honest is that I'm a little too honest sometimes. I forget to make things more palatable for people, i.e. sugarcoating. Because I was a personal assistant for a really long time. So I didn't have the luxury of kind of dancing around things. So it is what it is and it ain't what it ain't. So when my boss would say, hey, what do you think about this? I don't think that's a good idea, boss. I don't think it's a good idea because XYZ, PDQ, okay. And then they can make a decision from there and go on with their day. Now, an important part of being honest is you have to check your ego at the door. Because a lot of times when people come to you for advice, sometimes they're just not going to listen to you. So I know I get caught up sometimes and someone will come to me, ask me for some kind of advice, will ask me my opinion on something. I'll give them my opinion that I know is right, and they'll go and do the exact opposite. And so it's like, bro, I told you. Like, why didn't you? But that's not my place to tell them how to live their life. You asked for my opinion, I gave it to you. I was honest with you. Anything you do after that, it's on you. The great African philosopher Tupac Shakur actually had something to say along the lines of this. Well, not along the lines of this, but for me, being trustworthy plays into this too. He says, just because we're not friends anymore doesn't mean we're not enemies. I don't want to see you eat at the plate with me. I don't want to see you eat at the table with me, but I still want you to eat. And that falls into trustworthy for me for this specific reason. We all have falling outs. It happens. It's part of life. There's people who you once held in a certain regard that you don't anymore, and that's fine. It happens. People grow apart. People do things that others dislike. But you don't salt them after they leave. You don't now break the trust to be like, oh, they told me this, or I know this about them. Like, that's not what you do as a savage. People have disagreements. It happens. But you have to be the bigger person and keep that to yourself. There's no glamour insulting someone who's not there, and talking and telling their business, telling things that they once told you in confidence. Like, that's not the savage way at all. You still gotta respect the person, which is, oh, wow. Wouldn't you know? And it just so happens, number 6, respect. See how I do that? One topic goes into another. It's like I've done this before. Um, Number 6, respect. If there was a top 3 for a top 10, this would be it. Respect. 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 So the main thing, I mean, this is an easy one. I think we all understand what this means. Respect is earned. It's not given. That's the one thing that I try to explain to people over the years. You have to earn your peers' respect. You can't. I never respected anyone because they told me I had to. Anytime I had a boss or a coworker or I was doing business with someone and that was their thing, was like, you're going to respect me because I said so, that kind of tells me off top you're already a piece of shit. Because if you understand how respect works, you know you can't just tell people like, hey, yo, you're going to respect me. Like that's not the way the game goes, like whatsoever. So when I say respect for being a savage, what that means is you have to respect other people and you have to respect yourself. Respecting other people is very simple. I mean, you don't talk crazy to people, you don't put chains on people, you don't steal, you don't lie. Very simple stuff. The problem with respect is sometimes respect is hard to give to people, especially when, for me, showing respect to people who don't deserve it is really hard. But I've come to the realization that it's a reflection of my character and not theirs. What I mean is, it says more about me if I'm willing to show respect to someone who doesn't deserve it than it reflects on that person. Sometimes in parenting, or I'm sorry, in management, we call it respecting the position and not the person. So you may not like your vice. Your vice. You may not like your boss. You may not like your coworker. Hell, you may not even like the police officer that pulled you over. But again, because you're going to use your brain because you're a savage, you're respecting the position, not the person. So I may want to call you a punk rock BZ that makes me Earl, but I'm not going to do that. Because that's when you get into the struggle for, well, you're going to respect me and I'm going to do this to make you respect me. Like there's no win in that. That's just going to create a conflict. And now that person is just going to not like you. There's been plenty of times that there was someone in a position of power over me and they knew that I had little to no respect for them. They absolutely knew. But I would never let it show. I would never openly be disrespectful, or I would never question their authority in front of people, but they knew deep down in their heart that I had little to no respect for them. But the important part is that even though I didn't, in my heart of heart and my souls of souls, think that they were deserving of that kind of respect, I still gave it to them. Because, again, you don't know what that person's going through. You don't know what it took for them to get to this point in life. So, there's days where I'm sure I've done some things that made me not deserving of respect. But, again, it's the savage way. That's what you have to do. Treat people with respect even when they don't deserve it. Having respect for yourself, that's easy. That's not being the person who's looking for attention, per se. I think all of the savages know someone exactly like that. Not being the woe is me guy. Not being on your social media. Oh, why can't I find a girlfriend? Or, oh, why can't I find a job? Or, that's not respecting yourself. Being a liar, being a cheater, being all in people's business, like that's not respecting yourself. When it's easy to see people who respect themselves, even with the transient population out here, as the ongoing battle that the homeless population and me have, there are certain transient people who just don't shower, Their clothes are a mess. They they are ripe for the picking. They just they'll piss shit on the street. All their little homeless belongings are all. It's just a hassle. It's when you see it, it's just like, damn, go away. Like I don't want to be bothered. But then on the flip side, I've seen transient people who were fresh to death. I mean, it wasn't. We're not talking brand new clothes, but the things that they had were well kept. All of their possessions were in a bag or in a cart, or if they did have their little sleeping bag, it was all nicely organized, stuff like that. Like that's having respect for yourself. Even though this is the most extreme example, like just because you're in a bad situation, that doesn't dictate how you're going to act. Like you're just not going to be like, well, you know what? I'm out here. It's all bad, so I'm just going to be just reckless and just disgusting. It's like, nah. I guess a real world example of this would be not putting yourself in a compromising position. Meaning specifically if you're in a situation where you might have to do something you don't want to do, i.e., oh, my cousin's here from out of town. Oh, can I stay with you? And you'd be like, you know what? Every time my cousin comes over, there's wrappers in the couch and a couple of my pills are missing. And it's just a general headache. It's like, you know what? Nah, I'm not rocking with you today. Or that friend of yours that always wants you to babysit but don't give you no money. Nah, no thanks. I'm not going to do it. Or the friend that needs a ride that doesn't give you your gas money. Like, nah, I'm not going to deal with that. Those are things that fall in line with respecting yourself. Like, I'm not going to take less. I'm not going to be put in a situation where someone's going to try to browbeat me into doing something for them. It's really about doing what's best for yourself. That's how you respect yourself. You don't try to make other people happy because that's not going to bust it. That's not going to boost your ego. But again, you got to stay humble. No matter how much you get up there and you get to respecting yourself and you start to think, I'm the shit and I know it, all of that. You still got to respect other people, keep it humble. See how all of this comes together? I love it. All right. We're almost there. Look at this. Pushing closer. All right. Personal favorite. Number 7. You have to be able to forgive if you want to be a savage. Like, Tru Sav, what do you mean? You got to forgive and forget. You got to let it go. You have to be able to let go of the past if you want to live in the present. Now, this is a really important one because with any type of long-term relationship, there are going to be disagreements. You got to let it go. That your baby dad, that the father of your child cheated on you or said he was going to flip that tax return money and didn't do it. Or you got to let go that your mom didn't give you enough hugs back in 1993 or she didn't buy you that PlayStation. Holding on to stuff like that isn't going to help you in the present, and it's not going to help you in the future. This is a good one. I used to live in Greenhaven. I told you guys, I lived in the house by myself in my early 20s. And one of my roommates was this girl. I'd gone to school with her sister. We were in the same grade. She was maybe 4 or 5 years younger. And she needed a place to stay. So I'm like, all right, I'm saying, rent's $500. Pay on the first. Like, first 30 days is free. I let her move in, see how we get along, whatever. It's like, all right. So over the course of the year or two while she lived there, she developed a habit. And it wasn't a very good habit. It was a drug habit, we'll say. And before she left, she had wrote me a check for, I think, maybe like $1,000 or something. I'm not sure what it was for. So she writes me a check for the rent. I go, oh, because I was moving. So she had wrote me the last check for rent. I go deposit the check. That shit bounces sky fucking high. So I call her. Can't find her. I ended up having to go to her parents' house and be like, yo, you kid wrote me this fucking rubber check. Like, can we do something? Her parents were cool about it. They knew that she was losing a battle. So they wrote me the check, figured it out, and I was more confused than anything. Like, at first I was upset. I was like, damn, you wrote me a bad check, So a couple years go by, and I saw her on Instagram or something. So I messaged her like, hey, what's up? Like, hit me up. So she answers, and she's being kind of coy. Like, she's not really responding. She's just kind of like, hey, and we're talking, and I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, why are you acting like that? She's like, oh, well, the last time we talked, I wrote you that bad check and this and this. And I stopped her, and I was like, okay, but like, the issue's resolved. Like, why would I not talk to you because of that? Like, you were in a bad way. Like, things happen. Like, you're still a friend of mine. Like, you didn't do anything too bad. Like, you wrote me a bad check. Like, all right, it happens. Like, whatever. And I feel like she didn't really believe me in the beginning. She was kind of waiting for the other foot to drop. Like, well, I need $1,000 from you too or something. But it's like, no, like, that's just not. Like, I understand when you have such an outgoing personality like mine do, you rub people the wrong way. I do it all the time. It's not intentional, I promise. And I've learned sometimes it's a misunderstanding. Well, there was obviously no misunderstanding about this, but in some circumstances, like, you don't like people because you just have two differing opinions on something. I can't tell you how many people, I don't like this person because I don't like their politics, or I don't like this person because I don't like the same football team. Like, those things are so silly and trivial. For me specifically, I should say, I choose forgiveness because it's too much work to not like somebody. To hold on to that and be like, oh, fuck this person, and to try to go out of your way to make sure that bad things happen to them, like, that is just so much energy that I do not have. I absolutely do not have. Like, I used to tell kids all the time when I would be coaching, I would ask them what the opposite of love is. Like, if you love someone, what's the opposite emotion? And they would always say hate. And I'd say, no, it's not. The opposite of love is indifference. Meaning the opposite of a strong emotional reaction is nothing. If one end of the spectrum is I love you, the opposite isn't I hate you. The opposite is I don't care. Like, that's a very important distinction that I wish that people would understand. Like, love and hate are on the same end of the spectrum. If you don't care about a motherfucker, like, that's what hurts. So, I mean, again, I just let it go. You have to realize there's more important things going on in life than a disagreement you had with someone, or even if someone intentionally did you wrong. Like, this whole tit for tat and eye for an eye, like, the times that I were petty and I did do something back, I did try to retaliate because someone did something, it never made me feel good. It was like, okay, so now you're waiting for them to do something so you can retaliate back. It's like, no, I just let it go. Like, whatever. I just know that I'm not going to deal with you moving forward, and I'm going to go on with my life. There's no better fuck you to someone who doesn't like you than ignoring the shit out of them. 100%. If you know someone doesn't like you, the best thing you can do is just ignore them. Because they want you to do something. They want that interaction. They want that energy. But if you're just, That'll kill them more than anything. I absolutely promise you. All right. Number 8. We're almost home. 2 more. Number 8. If you want to be a savage, you've got to be a leader. Let me be clear on what I mean when I say be a leader. I don't mean that you got to be the president of the company or the United States, or you have to be in charge of something. Like, that's not what a leader is. A leader is somebody who takes responsibility for themselves and for others. So I get it. If the workplace, that's not your situation, you're not trying to be the CEO, whatever, I get it. I'm talking about more in your personal life, more with your relationships, with how you deal with your family, your significant other. If you know that the house is kind of awry, things are disorganized, and you take it upon yourself to get things organized, to implement a plan, not only for you, but for other people, like, that's being a leader. If you know that somebody, if your significant other, husband or wife, is having a hard time with the bills, and you kind of guide them on how to make it easier, or with your family, if you know that certain things are high pressure times a year or certain situations, and you make it easier for people, that's being a leader. By showing and guiding them how things are done. Most importantly, there's 3 things you need if you want to be a leader. You've got to be accountable, you've got to be responsible, and you've got to be mature. Not mature as in age, but you've got to be mature as in you have to know people's strengths and weaknesses, and you have to know how to talk to them through their strengths and weaknesses. Meaning you've got to know if Aunt Dee Dee is sensitive about Uncle Elroy, you've got to know how to maneuver that situation. Conversely, if you and the parent of your child, mother or father, have a sensitive relationship, you have to know how to do that without resorting to childish squabbles and name calling, stuff like that. Or even something as simple as, we've got the family picnic coming up, or we have a family event coming, and you want to make sure that it goes off without complications. Like, those are the types of things that make a savage. Because everyone's going to need, and this is male or female, let me reiterate, all of these are gender neutral. So, man, woman, if you want to, I know I didn't specifically say excuse me, I hate saying boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know. I try to say man and woman. It's weird. You'll get a complex out here in the Bay Area. Trust me. Especially with being a leader. Like, I think a lot of times, especially for women, when people say you have to be a leader and you have to act like a man, like, you don't have to act like a man to be a leader. Like, there's plenty of societies worldwide that are the woman is the leader or the matriarch. The most important part about being in charge is being accountable. That's the number one thing that people have with being a leader. If you want to be a leader, if you want people to respect you, you have to acknowledge when you were wrong. If you say, hey, this is the direction I think we should go, this is why, and people accept it, and it ends up blowing up, the number one thing you have to be able to do is say, you know what, I was wrong, I shouldn't have did that. How can we fix that going forward? That's the number one thing that people get wrong about being in charge. You have to say that you're wrong when you're wrong. If you're unwilling to to be accountable for your mistakes, no one will ever listen to you. That I cannot preach this enough. Whether it's in relationships, interpersonal relationships, business relationships, or just dealing with people in general. I cannot stress this enough. You have to be able to say when you're wrong. And that's part of being honest also. When you have people around you who are being honest and someone say, hey, look, I don't think this is a good move. Like, you've got to be able to say, okay, let me get off my high horse. Let me think about this. Am I making the right decision for everyone? Or am I just trying to am I trying to make a decision based solely on me being in power? Which brings us to being responsible with being a leader. Sometimes when you put in a position of power and you've proven that you are a good leader, this is when responsibility comes into it, because now you can start to abuse your power. Because when people blindly trust you, you can put them in a bad situation. If you're responsible for someone's finances and they don't check or anything like that, and you decide, hey, I think I need that new 74-inch TV. Oh, they'll never know. Like, that's not being responsible. That's not being honest or trustworthy. That's not what the leader is. It's hard being a leader because, well, in theory, it's hard because when you're wrong and someone brings up that you're wrong, it's kind of hard to be like, yeah, you know what, I was wrong. And your decisions are going to be called into question. Like, that's just part of being in charge. But if you want to be a savage, you're going to have to learn how to love it, because someone's going to have to do it. It's better. And again, being a leader of large groups of people isn't for everybody. Being the leader in your household, or even just for yourself, like, that's a necessity. So I don't want you to go out there and be like, oh, I've got to be president if I want to be a savage. But you do have to have the qualities of a leader if you want to be a sav, baby. Like, that's just the way the game goes. All right. We're here. Finally. We've made it. It's been a long day. We had a lot of things going on, but we have got to the last item on the list. All right. Item number 10. How to be a savage. You got to be yourself. I know, right? Brought you all the way here for that. So the thing is, we can't really tell you how to act. Like, and what I mean is, everyone's different. Some of these apply to us more than the others. But the one thing that's consistent with every savage that I know is that you have to be yourself. If you like Dungeons and Dragons and knee-high socks with yellow Sesame Street shoes, like, all right, bro, that's what's up. If you are a woman and you like to dress a little tomboyish, like, that's what's up. Good for you. We're not in the business of making you conform to anything in terms of how you look or how you act or a certain, again, specific style or anything like that. That's not what made us who we are. What made us who we are is that we accepted everybody. If you were a nerdy kid, if you were a cool kid, if you were a dumb kid, like, it was cool. I'll tell you, with the addition of a lot of this social media, I see people I interact with people that I remember hanging out with back in the day, and I was like, I'll probably never see that person ever again. Like, that was just how it was back in the day. Like, before Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, people from high school were like, oh, that was it. Like, the 10-year reunion was something because you hadn't seen these people in years. You had to meet up together, see what was going on. Now I could do that with the click of a button. And I bring this up because we used to play football all the time in any park we could find. And a lot of times when we would play, there would be younger guys that wanted to play. That would be, I don't know, 7th grade, 8th grade, maybe in high school. We were 2 to 3 years out. And we would always play. We'd always let them play with us. It was never an issue. It was never a pick on the little kid or stuff like that. And one of the kids had commented on, I want to say it was D-Rock's post. There was 2 or 3 kids that had used to play that he still kept in contact with. And this particular one, we used to call him Wayne Corbett. I can't remember my man's real name. I just saw it. But he had posted, and he's grown now, has kids, married, all that. And one of the things that he said was, I appreciate that you guys always told us like where you were playing games at, and you guys always let us hang out with you. And it built my self-confidence as a person. This is him talking, not me. And he spoke about how it made him more confident to do stuff. And even though he wasn't the best at football, he knew that by being out there with us, he felt accepted. And going into high school, it made him more confident in dealing with people. And he's now married with children, so on and so forth. And it kind of tugged at my heartstrings a little bit to think that, even this was 20 years ago, that unwittingly we were having such a positive effect on people's lives. And again, at no point did we say, you have to have this, or you have to do this, you have to be like that. The only requirement was that you're a cool person. I think it's a bit touching. It makes me, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna get on my high horse for a little bit. It feels good to know that you're having a positive effect on someone, and it's not, when your name is brought up, it's not, oh, those motherfuckers. Like, it's nothing like that. Like, that's cool to think of. I would think. I don't know, but I'm a nerd. I don't know. Furthermore, well, even besides that, being yourself is the most important, because there's only one of you. Like, you might have a doppelganger, someone who physically looks like you, but there's no one on the planet that has the same experiences as you, whether good or bad. And that's what we like the most. Everyone brings something different to the table. I was good at sports. D-Rock was good at music, or is good at music. Dagwood is the smartest motherfucker I've ever met in my life. And it goes on and goes on and goes on. If we had tried to make everyone the same, I don't think it would have worked out the way that it did. Because again, our biggest strength was that everyone was different. We were like a ghetto A-team. That'd be the best way to describe it. Tru Sav, the Tru Savages, the ghetto A-team. So I mean, that's all we want now. It's like, if you want to be a savage, the number one rule, you got to be yourself. I mean, you still got to follow the other rules, but most importantly, just be yourself. Like, I hate to blame social media for everything, because there was social media before, just not as invasive. A lot of times when we compare ourselves to other people, like I said in the beginning, you kind of lose your worth. Like, well, oh, I should be doing this, or I shouldn't have these kids, or I should have a house, or I don't have a car, I should do this. It's like, no, you got to be you, man. Again, life's a bitch, and then you die. You can't live for anybody else but yourself. That you can't try to impress me. I'm more impressed by people who really are genuinely themselves. If you think that you're a bit strange, I mean, come on. My man D-Rock used to ride roller skates up and down the street. My man Phonetics does poetry. Like, I was to be in the drama club. Like, come on. Like, it don't get no more different than that. My man Dagwood, I think, has every Calvin and Hobbes book out there. I mean, extremely likes the Florida Gators. I mean, if you can deal with that, like, anything's possible with someone who likes the Gators. I mean, Jesus Christ. But no, it's, I feel like that's the thing in any situation, man. You just got to be yourself. Just 100%. If you don't love you, how can somebody else love you? Whew. All right. No more serious stuff. We're going to do some funny stuff next time. Well, I guess this is kind of funny. It's not as serious as that last time. Oh, my God. All right. Quote really quick from my man, Andre Hicks, ghetto laureate from the Triple C. You know what? We're gonna end with a quote from Andre Hicks today. But before that, I should have a logo by the end of the week. I will post it on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that. It's interesting. I like the logo. I like what he did with the little concept thing. Should be interesting. I will post all of the logos that I get. It's probably going to be like 9 or 10. And then we'll do it the old-fashioned way. We'll figure it out. The intro, again, I've been saying, you know what? I realized something. I had been saying it wrong the whole time. The email address is bestdayeverpodcast@gmail.com, not the best day ever. I keep saying it wrong. I just realized it today when I listened to an old episode. It's bestdayeverpodcast@gmail.com. And then I am Tru Sav Comedy, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I don't know how I've been saying it wrong the whole time. Another shout out. If you like the intro and you'd like to see more, go visit my man, Official 24/7, OFFICIAL 24/7, Instagram, Facebook, whatever you want. You want a song? You want a hook? You want a beat? My man's got it. Again, Official 24/7, OFFICIAL 24/7, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Like, follow, subscribe. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Tru Sav. There's so many. I've got to write this down like on a piece of paper. Finally, yeah, because we got to get out of here. Now you know how to be a savage. I want you to go home, implement these, work on it, wait till next week. I was listening to this song, and it made me think about, it pretty much sums up the entire Tru Sav experience in a couple verses. So I'm going to give you this from young Andre Hicks. After the chorus, my man comes in, he says, I got a crew full of the realists that's deep as the Pittsburgh Steelers. Retired bank robbers, extra dope dealers, and adversary killers. Our mission is simple. Get rich and stay real. So our kids can live fat. Better than we did when we was little. Life is short. You only live once. And it ain't no telling when you're leaving. So I'm going to do it all, have a ball, while I'm still living and breathing. See, I'm a philosopher. And my philosophy's this. Don't be no punk, young homie. If it's worth it, take that risk. Anything's possible. Nothing's for show. You got to take advantage of all opportunities and get this money. You know, love those who love you, but don't never let love fuck up your vision. How much love did your loved ones have when you was broke or doing time in prison? Whew. Nothing but bars from the Mac Andre Hicks. I must say. And unfortunately, I must also say goodbye. So yeah, that's all today for the Best Day Ever podcast. Don't forget, I said it a million times, like, follow, subscribe, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Tru Sav Comedy, Best Day Ever podcast @gmail.com. Man, I miss y'all every week. I hate to say goodbye, but I know y'all are getting it done. I believe in y'all. The best things in life are for y'all. If nobody told you this week, I love you. Don't forget, you can't get yesterday back. You might not get tomorrow, so that makes today the best day ever. All right, y'all. Holla at your boy. I'll see you guys next week.